Morning, everyone. Welcome to Compliance Over Coffee. It's a little bit overcast this morning, a little bit dark here in the northwest, not August-like at all, shall we say. This morning and Thursday, I'm splitting our Compliance Over Coffee into parts 1 and part 2. And the topic that I want to talk to you about is, as you can see by the title, distressed or motivated sellers and BMV or below market value. And the first bit that I want to cover with you this morning are motivated and distressed sellers. And the reason why I want to do this is that it leads on Thursday into an important factor that you need to consider if you're going to do what are known as BMV deals and you're going to deal with severely distressed sellers. So first off, let's have a chat about motivated and distressed. And a lot of you will have opinions on this and they may well differ from mine, and that's absolutely fine. I'd be really interested in the comments below the video to hear what your thoughts are on the topic. A lot of courses that teach deal packaging talk about finding motivated sellers. Now, motivated means that there's something happening in their lives, which means that they are more motivated than other sellers to actually sell on the property to you at a discount. And you can go in and you can see sellers, and Tony and I have done this, and you can pick up leads and go and speak to them, and they want full market value for the property. They're not distressed, they're not motivated, they're happy to sit on the market with the property 25% above anything that's sold before in the street. That's what they want for their property because they believe it's worth it because of X, Y, and Z. And at that point in time in their stage in the property sale, you can't help them. It's just one of those things. You can't help them because they don't believe that they have to reduce the price to something that you believe will work for your strategy, your buyer, whatever it is that you're doing with it. And so you have to leave it on the market, or advise them just to put it on the market with an estate agent. And obviously monitor it, because that's what we do, because things change. So they aren't motivated and they aren't distressed, and it may or may not fit in with your criteria. If it's 25% over market value, probably won't do. But sometimes if it is what you call what it would sell for on the open market, your investor, your buyer, may be quite happy to pay market value and add value in other ways. And I think there's confusion around what market value means. What does it mean? Is it what anybody will pay for it on a particular day? Is it what a property within a quarter of a mile in the same condition, same style of property has sold for in the last 12 months? A lot of people differ on what it is, but as far as RICS valuers are concerned, market value has a definitive statement, which I'm going to read out for you now. And a RICS valuer believes that market value means the estimated amount for which a property should exchange on the date of valuation between a willing buyer and a willing seller in an arm's length transaction after proper marketing, wherein the parties have each acted knowledgeably, prudently, and without compulsion. What does that mean simply? If you think that your house is worth 100,000 because a similar house sold for that last year on the same street, or because your sourcing agent or your estate agent told you, and you buy it or you make an offer on it for 80k for your investor, you might be mistaken in thinking that you've got it for 20% below market value. But a RICS valuer would disagree with that and would say basically that was market value at that point in time for that property, because that was what you believed was the value of it for you that's buying it or for you that's sourcing it. Now, in order to get some of the discounts that a lot of people talk about on Facebook and other avenues of social media, we hear people talking about 20, 25, 30, 40, even 50% discount on value as a sourcing agent. And what I want you to think about is, in order for you to be able to go in and work with a seller and be able to get a very high level of discount, there is going to have to be an awful lot of motivation. And I believe that there is a very fine line between motivation and distress. There can be positive motivations, in my opinion, such as you're going to get married, your partner already has a property, and you're going to move in with your partner and you want to sell your house. It's a positive situation. You're going to get married, but you want to sell your house because you're going to be living with your partner. Now, that's motivation for selling. Does it cause distress? Well, it might do if that money has to be there to be able to pay for the wedding, maybe. But can you see what I mean? That some situations are positive rather than being negative motivation. So there is motivation, and you may get, as a sourcing agent, a small discount on what you believe will be the average market value based on your research on Rightmove or wherever you go. But in order for you to be able to get a huge whack off the price, there has to be something much more than that going on, which means, for me, that means that they have to be distressed. And generally speaking, I mean, you may have experienced something else. For me, that level of distress is going to be financial. It's going to be financial. It could be divorce and financial, I guess. But predominantly, I think for that level of discount, there has to be some sort of financial stress going on. And I always have stated, and I always will, that when Tony and I go in to speak to sellers when we're working with them directly, I always say to them that if working with Tony and I will put them in a worse financial position than they're already in, then I won't do it. I signpost them. I'm not an expert in repossessions. I know that there are people out there that are, and that's fantastic. But Tony and I at this moment in time are not experts in repossessions. And I would never, ever risk someone losing their home because I fumbled around in the dark and didn't know what I was doing. So you need to ask yourself, because of the financial distress that someone might be in, or you're aware that they're in, are you going to try to help them, in inverted brackets, by selling their property to your investor for 30, 40, 50% off a value that they may get if they waited and put it on the open market, but they haven't got the time to do that because of the financial distress that they're in? Now, some people state that, well, we've done them a favour. They would have had to have waited if they'd put it up for sale with an estate agent. They might not have sold it up quickly. We got them a cash offer and we got it through within 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. But we got a 40% discount on the price in exchange for it. My question will always be, couldn't you have given them 15% more and had a 25% discount and still have made it a good deal for your investor, but still have made it a win for the seller and left them in a less distressed condition than possibly you already have? And I think you have to think about and put yourself in that person's shoes. If it were you in those shoes and you were in financial difficulty and you were going to have to sell your property and you were in fear of being repossessed or being made bankrupt or going insolvent or whatever it is, and you felt that you had no choice but to accept a 30, 40, 50% discount on what you knew your property was actually worth if you had the time to be able to sell it to an estate agent, how would you feel if that happened to you? And, you know, that person that you were dealing with could have given you extra, had shared the benefit of the situation out that they were gaining with you, instead of taking and skimming the cream off for themselves and for their investor. So think about, please, the person that you're working with when you direct to the seller. think about motivation versus distress. And I think there's a fine line. Some people think they're one and the same. I think that there's motivations which can be more on the positive side, which aren't necessarily they have to sell for 30, 40, 50% discount, but you can get a bit of a discount because they do have that motivation to sell, but they're not at the severely distressed stage where they feel that they have no choice but to give huge levels of discount or they could lose everything. And so please, when you're working with that level of person, bear in mind that there, but for the grace of, it could be you. And how would you want to be treated? And can you skim a little bit less of the cream off the top and share it with the person whose property it is that you're sourcing on? That's it for this morning. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about what serious ramifications there can be down the line if you deal with distressed sellers and they end up going into bankruptcy within 5 years, and how you can look at protecting yourself over and above treating them fairly and reasonably in the first place. So that is Compliance Over Coffee for this morning. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have better weather where you are. It looks as if the rain's in here all day. Have a great Tuesday and Wednesday, and I will be back with you again on Thursday morning at 8:30. Bye for now.